So I was exactly right about the Nintendo Switch 2 sales when it comes to the holiday, and waiting to see the full picture before we jump to any types of conclusions, because there were a number of people making videos and saying certain things about the Nintendo Switch 2 sales over the holiday. But they were saying that before we had the complete data. We didn't have everything. So I think that's where a lot of that stuff was coming from. And now that we actually have the data, we can go over everything. So it definitely shows that the Nintendo Switch 2 kind of landed a crushing blow on this narrative that it stumbled over the holiday or Christmas period, or that nobody was buying it here in the West and the sales were only good in Japan. So we're going to go through everything with that, and we've got an update on Metroid Prime 4 sales as well. But before we get into all that, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 and a $50 eShop card. All you got to do to enter is subscribe to the channel. Once we hit 150,000 subscribers, we will give away that Nintendo Switch 2. We're giving away the $50 eShop card at the end of this month, and we're going to have new giveaways every single month. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and drop a comment below about what we're going to talk about here with the Nintendo Switch 2 sales, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and more. All right, let's go in and jump right into this here, because yes, there was a crushing blow, and I would say a knockout to the narrative that the Nintendo Switch 2 didn't do that well in the US or Western sales over the holiday period. There were articles, no shots, but obviously Christopher Drang, that's the article that people were talking about when it comes to that. And there was lots of videos and lots of people coming to my streams and saying certain things. But now that we actually have the full data here from Matt Piscatella and Circana, who's verified and actually gets the data when it comes to it, and Nintendo, Sony, they do acknowledge that data with retail partners, and in Sony and Microsoft's case, and also PC, they actually give digital sales. Nintendo unfortunately does not give their eShop sales data to Circana, but we still have the physical retail sales data for here in the US. Let's go over the really good numbers here and stuff that I felt that I was going to be right about when it comes to 2025 sales overall in the United States. So the Nintendo Switch 2 sales have hit 4.4 million units plus in the first 7 months in the United States. That is still the fastest selling system of all time here, and it's the best selling console in the US for all of 2025. Now, why is that significant? Well, because the Nintendo Switch 2 came out in June of 2025. So it came out middle of the year, but was still the best selling console for the full year overall. So definitely very good, because Nintendo was able to supply enough systems so where people can just walk in and get one. So that's why you saw an excess of systems, well, because they wanted to make sure that people can just walk in and get one no matter what at any time. The Nintendo Switch 1 is a really popular system. It did really well. People with the economy how it is right now aren't just going to rush out and buy everything day one. It's going to be over the course of time, so you have to make sure that you have stock whenever people go in to buy one. And that's exactly what Nintendo did over the holiday period. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 is still 35% ahead of the PlayStation 4 if you align them up. PS4 was the previous fastest selling console of all time in the US, so the Switch 2 does have an advantage over the PS4 in that same time period. And when you compare it to the Nintendo Switch 1, it's about double when you align the sales. So once again, very good. Although the Nintendo Switch 1 did have some shortages in the first number of months, although things did clear up around the holiday period, around October, November. It was much easier to get a Nintendo Switch 1 for the holiday compared to back when it released in March, April, May, over the summer and everything. So very good with that. Shout outs once again to Circana, Matt Piscatella. The numbers were out there. I think that really what this should say when it comes down to it, guys, is let's stop following the grifter narrative. Let's stop following the weird video or weird article narrative that does not actually have the complete data before we start saying that it did this or it did that. Because once again, Matt Piscatella came out initially and stated, once the articles and the videos started going up and stuff, saying, hey, wait a minute, we don't even have access to the December data yet when it comes to the US. So we can't make large, broad assumptions about the sales before we even have access to that. Now, for me, I don't care when it comes to what sells more, whether the PlayStation 5 sells more than Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch 2 sells more than the PlayStation 5. That's irrelevant to me, as I'm not making any money off of, or it doesn't benefit me in any type of way for one selling better than the other. I've bought 3 PlayStation 5s, so I've contributed to the PlayStation 5 being one of the better selling systems. I bought the Nintendo Switch too, so I want all the systems to do well. Heck, I bought the Xbox Series, so I want all of them to do well. I want nice competition and all that. So it doesn't matter which one sells more or anything. What matters is that they all sell good, that we get consistent flow of games. And when it comes to Nintendo's case, at least, the Nintendo Switch 2 needs to sell good so we can get third-party developers and we can get money invested into the platform so we get more games. If the Nintendo Switch 1 didn't do as good as it did, people wouldn't be lining up to develop their games on the Nintendo Switch 2 because they see that as a business opportunity. They see that as something to where, okay, if I invest into this platform, I'm going to make my money back because there's going to be a large amount of people buying the system, so they have access to buy our games on the marketplace. That's why it's important, not because of some stupid console war when it comes down to that. So just keep that in mind. Now, the PlayStation 5 was number 2 in dollar unit sales and unit sales for 2025 in the US, but Nintendo Switch 1 was number 1 in dollar sales and number 1 in unit sales. Now, another thing that I found really cool to see, at least, was some of the physical retail sales in the US when it comes to the Circana sales. And it was very cool to see this because the Nintendo Switch 2 had a number of games, well, more like Switch 1 and Switch 2 depending on the game. So if you look at the software sales charts, you have the ball and gun gamers representing at the top of the list here with Call of Duty and NBA and Battlefield and Madden and EA Sports FC, and that's great for them, whatever. It is what it is on that. But at number 6, you have Pokemon Legends ZA. And once again, Nintendo does not give digital sales, so it could have been higher. If you add in the digital, Pokemon Legends ZA was one of the best selling games digitally across the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2. So if you added that in there, it'd probably be higher on the list. But the cool thing here, which I talked about, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, that's in at number 7. Once again, not including digital sales, where it did much better on the Nintendo Switch 2 than the Nintendo Switch 1 from what we can tell digitally. But the Nintendo Switch 1 just has such a large base of people. So if you combine those in, plus the physical sales being in at number 7 here in the US, I don't think it was too bad. Now, once again, we don't have any sales numbers specifically for the unit right now at this point, but we might get that in February when Nintendo goes over their third quarter results. So that should be fun. But yeah, it's so good to see that Metroid Prime 4 was at least in the top 10 and in at number 7. Now, I don't know how long that's going to hold when it comes to the top 20, but still, it's nice to see that. Now, Donkey Kong Bonanza in at number 9, which is awesome because the previous month it was number 14. It actually jumped up to number 9 because more people are actually getting the Nintendo Switch 2 for the holiday. And Kirby Air Riders was in at number 18 this month as well. Super Mario Galaxy plus Super Mario Galaxy 2 was in at number 19, which last month it was at 26. So that also got a bump. So very good when it comes to everything here. But yeah, there was definitely premature articles. There was premature videos. There was people that were trying to say that it didn't do well. The Nintendo Switch 2, that is, didn't do well over the holiday period. And that's just not correct. It did good. It did really good, actually, to the point to where it's still the fastest selling system of all time. And once again, credit to Nintendo for actually having those units out there. Now, is everything perfect? Absolutely not. I do not want to make this video and thinking that everything went perfect last year and everything's good when it comes to the prices and everything's good when it comes to all that. That's not the case. There's still some issues with game key cards. There's still some issues with pricing with games. There's still some issues with the $80 Mario Kart. There's still a number of things. But what we need to do is actually focus on the stuff that's the real issue and not make up sales issues because we want to grift on YouTube for views and for money. We need to be truthful when it comes to what's actually happening with the sales, so we don't have these articles and we don't give credence to things that aren't correct, that just aren't correct with incomplete data or information, and people are pushing that as fact when that's just not happening. Now, I've been around long enough when it comes to YouTube that I understand that that's part of the game, but it also makes it sweeter here when we actually get the data and I can say, that's not quite correct when it comes down to that. Now, another thing that I want to talk about here briefly is the future, because I think that the biggest thing with this, it's not from a month to month or from a week to week type of thing, but it's over the course of a whole time period. Since I covered the whole Nintendo Switch 1, I covered the whole Wii U, I covered the very end of the Wii, I covered a lot, the majority of the Nintendo 3DS when it comes to professionally on a website or on my YouTube channel or whatever the case is. It's always going to be the software, the biggest software over the course or period of time that's really going to get people excited. If you really want to know how a system's going to do over a long time period, you just have to say, okay, what games are going to come to that system to truly push the unit sales up? The thing about Nintendo that makes it, to me, at least hard to bet against them doing well is the fact that before in the past, when they had problems, they split things. You had the Game Boy, you had the N64, or you had the GameCube, you had the GBA. They split things up, and it's tough to get software when it comes to portable and home console and get people to buy both and buy all the games for both. It's just hard to do that. But when you combine it together, you can put all of your heavy hitters on one system. And when you combine the fact that it's a portable and it's a home console put together, which Nintendo has always been the leader in portable systems, and they've been usually sometimes the leaders when it comes to home consoles with the Nintendo Wii or the Nintendo or the original NES, you combine both of those together, you get a really compelling piece of hardware. And I think that's the reason why the Nintendo Switch 1, combined with all of the games that actually help sell the portables, like Pokemon or like Animal Crossing or Fire Emblem, or all these games are all now coming to one platform. So it's really hard to bet against Nintendo doing well when the traditional system sellers that date all the way back to the original NES or Game Boy are all now being made for one platform. You combine in their actual third-party support early in the system's launch, whereas with the Nintendo Switch 1, they really had to wait to get some more games. I think that does create an explosive atmosphere. Even in the economy being bad, it does create something that's going to do well over the course of time. And like I stated, with actual big games. Now, Nintendo still has a lot more work to do. I think that this year is going to be pivotal. The Nintendo Direct coming up is going to be huge. They have to make sure that they nail that one. Let's see what they do with Mario. The Mario movie's coming up as well. Let's see what they do with Zelda. Let's see what they do with a lot of other things and what they bring to the table. I think Pokemon Gen 10, that's going to be big. What surprise games do they have? How is Fire Emblem going to turn out? There's a lot of things that still need to happen. But I think that, once again, if you look at the Nintendo Switch 1 era, they know the assignment and they know what they need to do in order to maximize the sales. And that's have consistent, good first-party software throughout the course of a long time. Not just worrying about 1 week or 1 month, but over the course of years. Have that consistent good hardware and software combination, and you can do well. That's what the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing right now at this point. Now, I do want to go over one more thing that dropped this morning that was pretty cool, and it looks really good running on the Nintendo Switch 2, and that is Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Bella Bell Park. That launches officially on March 26th. Plus, we've got some new amiibos, we've got a new overview trailer, and it's looking pretty beefy when it comes to the multiplayer aspirations of this game. Now, here's the official overview. This game does bring new cooperative and competitive gameplay to the Flower Kingdom, in addition to other new content and enhancements specifically for the Nintendo Switch 2. Gather friends and family and visit Bella Bell Park, a new area of the Flower Kingdom that features 2 large plazas filled with attractions. Team up or face off in challenges like Fast Cash, Tip Tap's Coin Spree, where you collect as many gold coins as you can, Knock 'em Back Bubble Blaster, where you duke it out and try to survive with the most lives intact. Local Multiplayer Plaza features 17 different types of attractions, which you can play with up to 3 friends on the same system. The game supports game share functionality, so if one player has the game, they can share it locally with up to 3 other players, which is an incredible feature. Just a side note here, I really love that Nintendo's trying to add game share as a feature, because there's a lot of people in the house that just might have one Nintendo Switch 2, because it is a bit pricier than Nintendo Switch 1, but they have other Nintendo Switches in the house with Switch Lights or other Switches, so it can give people that Switch 2 experience without actually having a Nintendo Switch 2 in the same household. I love that feature. Just want to point that out there. Okay, you can also visit the Game Room Plaza, which supports online and local wireless play. Here, each player brings their own system to play locally or online, joining the action on their own screen. Up to 12 friends can compete against one another in Game Room Plaza's 6 additional attractions. They did bump up that multiplayer count, so that's also pretty cool. All right, here's some other new features in this game. There's a lot of stuff. So Toad Brigade Training Camp in Bella Bell Park. You can also put your skills to the test across a wide variety of challenges set in courses from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. As you progress through the main game, you will have access to even more training courses from across the Flower Kingdom. So that's pretty cool. You have the assist mode. So if you're new to the game, it's going to help you never die, essentially. So that's going to be good for my son when he starts playing. I'm definitely going to get him on the assist mode at first because he's little. And then as he gets older, we'll take him off that assist mode. You've got familiar friends. And this one is dope too, because I love me some Rosalina, and now she is in the game. Plus they have the co-star mode in there to where somebody else can use the mouse mode with Luma and collect coins and hit enemies. So nice little thing there as well. And then you also have the mischievous enemies. While Rosalina and Luma are welcome guests, you may feel differently about the Koopalings, who of course arrive to add a bit of chaos. After treasure hidden inside Bellabelle Park is stolen by the 7 Koopalings, they all flee to various worlds across the Flower Kingdom. Keep an eye out, because if you stumble upon one, you'll now have to enter their course and engage in a battle with them. And I think that this is Nintendo actually fixing the boss battles in the game. This is the criticism. And I think that if this game actually had the Koopalings from the beginning and these boss battles, which seem to be a bit more creative and inventive, I think it would have scored even higher than like the 91 or 92 or so that it has. I think it would have done better, because that was one of the major criticisms. So the fact that they fixed it here, definitely a good thing with that. So pretty cool overall. The game does launch officially once again on March 26th. If you already have the original copy of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you can access the upgrade pack. And it does seem like the upgrade pack is going to be $20 because they're going to put it together, which I don't like. I wish that you can just do like a graphics upgrade pack and then the DLC, and it can be separate. So you could either pay 10 just to get the visual enhancements and then another 10 if you want the DLC. Like, I don't like how they put it together. But hey, it is what it is. If you want the upgrade pack, I think it's going to be 20 when it comes to that. There's also some new amiibo that you can get with the elephant and more. And then they also gave us a talking flower overview trailer. And that's not an amiibo, but it's an actual full real talking flower. So there's that, and that's coming out on March 12th. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 and RPG videos like these two right here on screen if you missed them. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.